over the last year, we've been working on a project out of which has come this paper looking at Asian Pacific security and a changing role for the US. A lot of people have looked at America's role in Asia Pacific from the American perspective, and in fact that's something that we Chatham House did about 18 months ago. And what is less well understood is what the Asian Pacific nations think in terms of their own security. And therefore, given that, what role should the United States take? What role is the United States needed for in the coming decade or 2 decades? And what we've discovered over the last year in the course of this report is that there are real concrete, albeit small, changes taking place in the perceptions of threats and the perceptions of how those threats can be dealt with amongst these 6 countries that we looked at: Australia, Singapore, India, Japan, South Korea, and Indonesia. Each country has a different perception of security challenges, and particularly has a different perception of America's role in the region. What is changing, what is perhaps transforming across the region, is this recognition that the security challenges, A, are not the same traditional actors as we've had in the past. So yes, it's China, yes, it's North Korea, but how these actors react, what these actors do, is changing. Actually, if you look at the threats from these actors, they're increasingly non-traditional. They're coming through cyberspace, they're coming through space security, communications, satellite communications, they're coming through economic levers, they're coming through energy levers. So the actors aren't changing so much, but actually the levers that are being used are changing quite tremendously. Then in addition to these traditional threats, there's also the new threats. And again, it's food security, it's energy security, it's water security. It's perhaps largely natural threats that are increasingly being felt in some of these regions. These long-standing allies of the United States are beginning to ask the question, is America quite as reliable as it always was? Does America have quite the same interests as we do? And because they're starting to question that, first of all, they're beginning to look at their own domestic capabilities, their own domestic military capabilities, and you're seeing again Japan, Australia to some degree, some of these countries essentially say we need to grow our militaries, we need to become more independently effective. They're also beginning to reach out to one another and build stronger networks amongst one another. So you're beginning to see the Japanese reach out, yes, to the Americans, but also to the Australians, the India trilateral with Japan and with the United States. And so you're beginning to see more and more of these trilateral, these plurilateral groups where people come together to create a network, if you will, of different kind of partnerships, relationships, alliances. And only then will America's traditional role of being this security provider, the protector, really start to play. And that balance between those 3 things, the domestic, the regional alliances or the regional partnerships, not necessarily formal alliances, and the United States, those dynamics are changing between the 3.